You know, none of his fault, but Plymouth Whitemarsh has been keying on Troy Swittenberg, especially in that second quarter when Norristown just could not throw the ball because of the weather. The safety, Chris Dempsey, really coming up hard on Troy Swittenberg and not allowing him to break anything. That's how Norristown does it. They don't really grind it out too much. They like to throw the ball some, but they like to get those long runs to get them in good field position, and they just could not do it in that first half.
So to start this second half, the Eagles will have the first offensive possession. Matt Fold in to kick. It's a low kick this time. Hits, taken at the 2-yard line by Audley Stewart. Stewart up the middle. He's in trouble, sheds one tackle, fumble, recovered by the Colonials. And if you could pick one thing that you didn't want to have happen, that's it.
Yep, absolutely. Audley Stewart just trying to make something happen. He beat one guy, got to the outside, but that time he was held up and took a pretty good shot, just coughed the ball up.
Mike Dinalfi, number 53, recovered that fumble on special teams. And I tell you what, that is just devastating.
Yeah, it was Matt Kincaid who caused it, and now with only another 15 yards to go, the Eagles have been in this position all day and haven't been able to stop the Colonials from here.
Kupfer, the handoff to Quinn. Quinn follows that left side of the line, forward for 4 yards, perhaps 5 on the play. It'll bring up second down.
And just as James Scott has been all to the right and a little bit up the middle, Craig Quinn, all of his 11 carries have been to the middle or to the left. So definitely a trend developing for Plymouth Whitemarsh where they like to run the ball, but it's been effective.
Kupfer takes a look, has everybody in close. The quick handoff to Kelly, touchdown. Dan Kelly, virtually untouched. Great quick handoff from Kupfer to Kelly, and he barrels the 10 yards into the end zone for a touchdown, 27-0.
Yeah, and with that quick hit, the crucial thing is you really have to be able to hold your position. And that time, Sean Beard and Steve Miller, the center and the right guard for Plymouth Whitemarsh, just blew a huge hole. Dan Kelly uncontested to the end zone.
So Matt Fold looking for his 4th point after touchdown of this ball game. Low snap, fumbled. Fold picks it up, looks to do something with it, nothing there. Doug White says, hello, how are you? Nice to see you. He and Audley Stewart, so the Eagles with a small victory, prevent the point after touchdown. It'll be 27-0, and that happened in only 45 seconds, folks. It's 11:15 to play here in the third quarter, and the Eagles are down by 6 more points.
And you said it, Jeff, going into the locker room, about the only thing Roger Grove can say is the mistakes are costing us. We're really playing these guys pretty well straight up. And you can't come out and make another mistake. And so far it's been real easy for the Colonials. They haven't even been tested. You really haven't put any pressure on them. If they were primed for a letdown after dropping out of the playoffs, the Eagles certainly haven't put them in a position to show it.
This time they drop Swittenberg back deep, which is the formation that we saw so much this year. They move Audley Stewart into Swittenberg's slot on the second tier of receivers. So to be Swittenberg and Stewart back deep. Fold's kick goes to Swittenberg. I'll tell you what, Troy Swittenberg did the same thing that Audley Stewart has done in this game. Misjudged that ball. He thought that ball was going to come down at about the 3-4 yard line, and it sailed over his head. Certainly the Colonials have benefited from a tremendous kicking game today. All of their touchdowns have been scored from this side of the field, and it's allowed Fold to just knock the ball out of the end zone. And one of the Eagles' threats is the big break on the kick return.
Absolutely. It is this year, and it always has been. And so far, that kick just fumbled by Audley Stewart. It's really the only one they've been able to take upfield at all.
So Chris Blake tries to set the offense here. He's got Paul Pronsati wide right, Zitzer in tight. Swittenberg has a hole up the middle. Nice gain for Troy Swittenberg. Perhaps the biggest gain from scrimmage today for the Eagles, setting aside the pass play we saw in the first quarter from Blake to Pronsati. 8 yards on that carry brings up 2nd and 2 for Norristown.
Yeah, and that's definitely Swittenberg's longest run of the day. He's had a little bit of success going up the middle today, but as we said, those defensive backs have really been closing down on him, stopping him short of first down so far.
Swittenberg up the middle again, first down across the 30. So the Eagles convert a first down, something we haven't seen in a while.
And it's nice to see them do it quickly, too. You want to move the ball quickly, and you don't want to put yourself in any third down positions. They've really liked to mix the pass into their offense, but it's not going to happen in this third quarter going right to left. So they're going to need to pick up a lot of yards on first and second down and give themselves a choice whether to run or use the short pass on third down.
They send Zitzer in motion to the far side. The quick handoff to Garvin Stewart. Stewart picks a hole, picks up a couple on the play, but he is dropped by the safety, Chris Dempsey. Interesting that on a 3-yard gain you'd have the safety making the tackle, but as you mentioned earlier, Walt, Dempsey is all over the place on the field today.
Yeah, you'd think with only one safety back there, he'd be the deep guy, the true safety, the guy making sure that nobody gets through and breaks anything. But Chris Dempsey is an enforcer. He's a hitter back there, really a fifth linebacker.
The handoff goes to Swittenberg, and he is hard-pressed to make it back to the line of scrimmage. It'll bring up third down for the Eagles. 9:16 to play here in the third quarter. The Colonials with a big lead here on a blustery Thanksgiving Day. It's 27-0 if you joined us late. A nice crowd here, Walt, for this game. Reinstitution of a long-standing tradition, albeit with a twist. It's not Norristown Upper Merion, it's Norristown Plymouth Whitemarsh. But it's nice that so many local folks have come out and begun their Thanksgiving Day in this fashion. Third down and 7 for the Eagles. Blake, the play action. He's under pressure, lofts it up to Jim Zitzer. First down. I'll tell you, great pass by Chris Blake under pressure. Just dropped it into Zitzer's hands. Soft touch.
Yeah, very nice to put that pass right on the sideline where only Jim Zitzer could catch it. And Zitzer, with good body control, really made a nice break out to the left onto that sideline, sold the route a little bit downfield, and then came across to the sideline. And good body control. Jim Zitzer just letting the ball fall into his arms and taking the first down.
So first and 10 for the Eagles. They're up to their own 47-yard line. Swittenberg has a hole again, launches himself across the midfield mark, and about a 5-yard gain on the play.
And again, that left side of the Norristown offensive line doing a very nice job of opening the initial hole for Troy Swittenberg. Still not much in that secondary once Swittenberg gets there, but he's getting through the line pretty easily now.
Second and 5 for Blake's Eagles here as again Zitzer goes in motion. This time it goes to Swittenberg off the left side. Not a first down, but close to it. Swittenberg down at about the 44-yard line of the Colonials. Third down and a yard.
And that time, Norristown had a couple of offensive linemen about 5 yards downfield, about where Troy Swittenberg went down. So really took their men off the line well, held onto their blocks, and just drove the opposing player downfield. I think Swittenberg's also helped today by the blocking of Adam Irvine from the tight end position. They haven't looked to throw Irvine's way, but he's doing a real nice job blocking.
Third and short for the Eagles. Fumble. On the snap, Blake manages to get it back and lunge forward, but I don't think he's going to have the first down. However, I don't think you have much choice but to go for it. Down by 27 points. It'll be 4th and inches. Actually, they mark it as a loss. Blake tried to lunge forward with it, but of course he was down once he landed on top of the ball. So make it 4th and a long yard.
And so far, Norristown's with very few plays for a loss off that left side.
This time they do the snap. Swittenberg, first down. Good job. Left side of that Norristown line. Good surge, Walt. Doug White coming up off the bottom of that pile was the man out front.
And again, they were aided by the blocking of Jim Zitzer from the H-back position that time. Got up into the line and opened another big hole for Troy Swittenberg.
Looked at me for a minute there like Swittenberg was going to stay in the Colonial huddle. It took him a while to get back to his teammates there. 1st and 10 for the Eagles from the Plymouth Whitemarsh 42-yard line. 6:20 to play here in the 3rd quarter. Blake, this time they go to the right side. Swittenberg, I tell you what, look at those linebackers come up. Troy Swittenberg tried to cut it back up inside. And the Plymouth Whitemarsh linebackers, again, it was Fleming and Quinn were all over that play.
And Swittenberg that time went to war with Doug White, but White had 3 guys to block. Initially lost his balance, but regained his balance nicely, and Doug White threw a great block, but those 2 linebackers came up outside of Doug White, and Troy Swittenberg found himself with no room to run.
So 2nd and 10 for Norristown. The play action. Blake has time. Boy, I'll tell you though, Chris Blake had time to set up on that ball, and he was trying to throw it across his body. Intended receiver was the fullback Garvin Stewart, and Blake just threw it into the ground, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Chris Blake has a strong arm, and he's used to doing those sort of things. Throwing on the run, he's been very good at it this year, and pretty accurate throwing on the run. But even with a strong arm, mechanics become so important in wind like this. And that time he tried to get the ball out quickly, but the wind had other ideas. So Chris Blake's going to have to set himself a little bit better next time on that play.
Eagles facing 3rd and 10, but certainly having 2 downs to go for it. The Eagles will look to convert here, I'm sure. Out of the shotgun, good snap. Blake down the middle, Zitzer open, tipped, falls incomplete. Good coverage that time by the Colonials. That was the safety, Chris Dempsey, I believe, with the tip.
And that time with 3 guys into the pattern, Dempsey became the pass defender. And a nice throw down the seam from Chris Blake, and Jim Zitzer got himself open. But Dempsey made a good break on the ball and was able to tip it up in the air.
Interesting, the Eagles will look to punt here on 4th and 10. Of course, under normal circumstances, you would say punting is the correct call. 4th and 10. You're at the opponent's 42-yard line. However, in this game, you're punting into the wind. You're trailing by 27 points. I don't know how many more times the Eagles are going to get the ball. We'll see. Morano stands ready. It's a good snap. Morano has time. It's a low kick, end over end. And it's going to be down at about the 28-yard line. So the net difference is about 14 yards. And I don't know if that's sufficient enough gain to warrant a punt there, but Roger Grove felt so, and his is the only decision that matters.
And I have to say, it's pretty unlikely the way the passing game works in this win today that they're going to get the first down there. But you do have to wonder. You certainly don't want to put your defense in another bad position. But once you're across midfield in a situation like this, I'm sure he thought long and hard about going for it, but decided to push the Colonials back a little bit farther.
Cup for the handoff to Quinn. Follows that left side again. The Eagle defense does a good job on that play. Short gain for the Colonials. Gain of about 2 yards on that play brings up 2nd and 8 from the 30-yard line. Paul Kupfer takes a look. The handoff goes to James Scott. James Scott, meet Doug White. Doug White wins. I'll tell you what, White was all over that play, Walt.
Yeah, they tried to run a little misdirection and get everybody flowing to that right side. But James Scott was swallowed up by Doug White that time, who stayed at home nicely, kept his feet. And James Scott's not a tackle breaker. He's a speed guy to the outside. When he winds up in the interior of that line, if the lineman gets a good look at him, he definitely has the advantage.
So after no gain on that play, it brings up 3rd and 8 for the Colonials. Jeff Brown, the split end. They bring a man in motion this time into the pattern. On the rollout is Kupfer, tucks it down. There's a flag on the play. He's going to be close to a first down. See what the call is here. Holding against Plymouth Whitemarsh, so that run will be negated. And certainly Norristown will take the holding call.
And that holding was necessitated by Norristown with good pursuit, getting to the outside. And even Big Doug White getting down the line of scrimmage out to the sideline, and those linebackers also out there to try and chase down Kupfer. But Kupfer wasn't going to have that corner. Norristown strung him out well, and the only reason he got that corner was a hold out in front of him.
Certainly not many penalties in this ball game today, Walt. Very few. Lots of fumbles.
Yeah, and you're not going to have a lot of penalties on a straight-ahead type running game, but do credit the Plymouth Whitemarsh Colonials for not holding much, especially with those pulling guards. They run a lot of movement on that offensive line, and sometimes when a guy beats you, it's tempting to hold him or even sometimes push a guy in the back. But great technique by those Colonial offensive linemen.
3rd and 18. The line of scrimmage back to their own 22. This time they run with Quinn to the outside, and he is dropped. That time the tackler, I believe, was Darrell Johnson, or was that Don Milligan? Don Milligan, the tackler, off the corner position. So Quinn picked up about 8 yards on the play, but it's going to bring up 4th and 10. Milligan makes the play.
But just by mentioning Darrell Johnson's name brings up a point to the Eagle defense, and that's that we haven't mentioned his name much. And we're mentioning his name when there's a lot of penetration in the backfield and a lot of tackles for losses. So far, Plymouth Whitemarsh has not allowed that.
Look at that kick by Kupfer, taken by Audley Stewart at the 35-yard line. Stewart spins and twists. About a 7-yard return up to the Norristown 42, so the Eagles will have good field position. Roger Grove's strategy pays off. The Eagles punt on that last possession. The defense holds, and the Eagles have it back. Only about 2.5 minutes taken off the clock, 2:30 to play in the 3rd quarter.
And that's a real nice hold from the Eagle defense. They kept Plymouth Whitemarsh from getting more yards to the outside and give their offense the ball back. Try and put something up on the board here early.
First and 10 for Norristown. Swittenberg takes the handoff, turns the corner, has some running room, down the sideline, knocked out of bounds, but a great run by Troy Swittenberg. That time the tackler, number 1, Courtney Pope.
And that time it was a sweep. They didn't run straight off tackle that time. They ran around the end on the sweep, and Swittenberg was able to get out there, but Paul Pronzati threw a tremendous block for Troy Swittenberg. As Pronzati saw Swittenberg coming around the end, Pronzati turned, saw his man, and stuck him right in the chest, allowed Swittenberg to burst down that sideline.
A big play for the Eagles brings up 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. That time the handoff was to the quickback, the fullback Garvin Stewart, and he is thrown for a loss.
Yeah, Chuck Tornetta has been really good on that inside. The Eagles have not gotten much inside at all. And Tornetta shot right through from his defensive tackle position. And on that quick handoff, Garvin Stewart had nowhere to go.
Loss of a yard brings up 2nd and 11 for the Eagles. They trail in this game 27-0. If you joined us late, it was a close contest, but the Eagles have been hurt by turnovers and special teams play, and the Colonials have capitalized tremendously. A big advantage in this game. Blake, this time they go to Swittenberg, who cuts it up inside, sheds 1 tackle, picks up several yards on the play. It'll be 3rd and about 7 to go. We'll give Swittenberg 5, make it 3rd and 6 for Norristown. Line of scrimmage now, the 32-yard line. Norristown has been as far downfield as the Colonial 25. That happening on the first drive. Fumble. Somehow they managed to get the ball to Swittenberg, but it's not going to go for much. Boy, I tell you what, I think everybody on this side of the field saw that face mask, but the officials didn't. Swittenberg was ripped down by the face mask. There's going to be no flag on the play, and it'll be a loss of a yard, bring up 4th and 7 for the Eagles.
Yeah, amazing that they even got that ball to Troy Swittenberg. Chris Blake initially dropped the fumble, then as he picked it up, never got the handle, just sort of shoveled it to Troy Swittenberg, who handled it well. And as he tried to get around that outside, he was dragged down by the face mask, but no call.
For a change, we had a good angle on something, and the officials didn't. So the Colonials get a bit of a break there, and it'll be 4th down and 7 for Norristown. Blake, a good snap this time, hit from the blind side, fumble. Ball's loose. Either way, it's going to be Colonial ball. That time from the blind side came number 41, Mike Cho, and he really stuck in the middle of the back of Chris Blake, popped that ball free.
Yeah, and he made a point of popping that ball free, too. He could have just stuck Blake in the back, and maybe in this cold weather with Chris Blake having the ball out, holding the ball out, ready to throw, he may have dropped it anyway, but Mike Cho made sure he punched that right hand in there to knock it away, and Plymouth Whitemarsh just was able to dive on it.